Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. I so love it when there's people waiting in the wings to jump on when we come on live. Thank you so much for those of you that are already jumping on. We appreciate you. We appreciate the support for the Her Version community. Remember, this platform is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. Today, I am speaking with an amazing woman named Rachael Burns. Rachael has always had a strong desire to understand happiness and what helps us as humans to continually move away from suffering and live the most fulfilling and joyful life possible. This stemmed from her journey of internal turmoil, having experienced the mental imprisonment of anorexia and depression. Her story is filled with challenges that she had to overcome in order to find her authentic self. Rachael is passionate about eating clean, yoga, and overall wellness for humanity. Welcome, Rachael.
Thank you, Sabrina. It's great to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for hanging out with me for a little bit and sharing your story in our community. We so appreciate women like yourself who are open to speaking about some of their story or all of their story and sharing it with others, because I think that this is how we are going to evolve as females, to help pull each other up, to let each other know that, hey, I also did that and I made it out alive, and this is how I did it.
Definitely.
How you doing on this Wednesday?
Yeah, brilliant. And in fact, I'd like to open with gratitude for you having this platform for the sharing of these stories.
Thank you.
And allowing us, I think part of the healing process, a huge part of it is as we share our story, some of the pain inside is also released. It takes some of the power away from what has been suppressed when we allow ourselves to share some of the things that maybe we're most afraid of about ourselves.
Yes, 100%.
Thank you for putting up that possibility.
Yes, of course. Thank you for that. I want to say before we kind of jump in here, because I know people are going to be asking, where are you from? Your accent.
So I was born in the south of England, but I've lived abroad for so many years now that the accent's sort of a little bit mixed from traveling a lot. So I now live in Spain, in the south of Spain.
Well, I'm going to say I'm low-key slightly jealous of that. It's so pretty. I'm just like immediately attracted to you because of your voice. It's so gorgeous. I've tried, like, embarrassingly tried to fake like some sort of something. And you know how some people can do that? They can actually like pull off a pretty good whatever, anything. I can't do any of it. It's so awful. But I so appreciate speaking to people that have a little bit of something a little bit different than what I'm speaking with here. But listen, I would love to jump in. I would love to give you the floor for just a little bit, so you can kind of give us an overview of, some of your past, where you stemmed from, how you ended up where you are, and some of the challenges that you've been through, throughout your life, whatever you're comfortable with talking about. And then we'll kind of just flow from there. Is that cool?
Yes, of course.
Awesome.
Of course. So, to give a little overview, the issues around with food began when I was around 15. And I can actually remember the exact moment it began. It was when I saw a photo of myself. And now connecting the dots backwards, I realized that I had really low self-esteem. I was a very timid child. I wasn't proud of myself. I didn't really respect myself. I liked to hide away. I didn't like to be seen. But one thing I would hear a lot from people is, you're so lucky, you're so skinny. I would love to have a body like yours. And so I programmed into myself that people saw my value as being the weight that I was at. So I always was aware of the fact that I was one of the skinniest in the room. And at 15, when I realized that that wasn't the case anymore, I'd, got to a more normal weight, let's say, and I saw a photograph of myself, and all of a sudden it seemed like something so simple. But at that moment in teenage years, when we're building that perception of who we are in the world, it was like everything crumbled underneath me.
Wow.
Because the one thing that I based my value on, which was being the skinny one, was taken away. And so, because it's that moment in life I felt I had no control over anything, one thing I could control was my food intake.
Yeah.
And I could bring back that sense of self-worth by bringing my weight back down, and again, being the skinniest one in the room. And so for about a period of about a year, I ate less and less and less. And I tried to get away with eating as little as possible. And luckily, I was confronted after about a year. And because I saw the impact it was having on my family, I started to eat again. The issue is that often we don't realize that someone has a problem with food because it's not visible on the outside. They can be at a normal weight and they can be eating, but the turmoil, the inner turmoil is still there. And that was very much still there for me, still low self-esteem, low sense of self-worth. And that then developed into depression. So I was about 19 when the worst part of it was. And I couldn't leave the house. I was struggling to get out of bed. I was in my second year at university and I was failing uni, and I'd always been a really good student. And it was feeding more and more into this perception that I was worthless. And I was acting in a way that just made me believe more and more that I was worthless. And there was this huge, it was like a light shining in the middle of the dark of this horrible place that I was in. My university, they sent me to Spain. And I was sent to a Spanish family to live with them for 3 months, and I was eating home-cooked food.
Yeah.
Being at uni, and especially somebody who's depressed, I was at home, I was eating processed stuff, really, I was not putting good stuff into my body. And all of a sudden, I was living in this Spanish family. We were eating 3 proper meals, home-cooked meals a day of Mediterranean food. And it was literally night and day.
Wow. It's probably so good.
So good. So good. And that helped me to realize the massive impact that food has on our emotional well-being.
Wow.
Because it was a massive wake-up call. All of a sudden, it's as though a veil had been lifted, but also I felt like I was coming back to life. And it was just through changing food. Now, obviously, the low self-esteem was still there, but now I was in a physical place to be able to confront what it was that was getting in the way of my happiness. Now I had that sort of strength and that energy and that desire to actually face my fears and start the process of finding what would make me happy. So that was like my first aha moment. And the second was, my father's always practiced yoga. I've always seen him doing his yoga sessions. And so one day I picked up his yoga books. I was 19, and I just started to ask questions. Why am I not happy? What am I doing? And what can I start to do to find happiness and to find answers? What's causing me to feel this way? And just sort of allowing myself to go into those places and find out what it was.
That's so cool that your dad was doing yoga. What a cool dad.
I know. I've got a cool dad. Cool mum and dad. Yeah.
That's not very, that's the percentage in that's pretty low. That's awesome. Good for you. I want to ask about the food though. Is this you looking back now realize, or are you actually conscious at that point of the food?
Ooh, that's hard to tell. I think it was a gradual realization through going back and forth between a good diet and a poor diet. I think it's quite normal in the student years to fluctuate between the right foods and the wrong foods, let's say. And so a gradual realization of the massive impact it had on everything, like my energy. I noticed that it exacerbated the depression when I was eating a poor diet.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
That is so cool. When do you think, how many years later did you start to make actual changes? Like in the food that you were actually eating just regularly in your day?
Good question. It was once I came back so my university then sent me to Italy. I studied languages at uni. I then went to Italy, and it was just the diet of the surroundings I was in was a lot more Mediterranean. And so I was blessed with that being a more well-rounded nutrition. And then my final year at university, I made a massive decision to show up for myself. I decided I am going to do what it takes to feel good. And there was a huge shift at that point in my life where I actually I started to become proud of who I was and what I was doing. And I started to actually feel good about who I was. And so it was all kind of feeding into itself. You know, we've got these two areas in our lives we can feed into. It's the victim mindset or the growth mindset. And that's when I made the conscious choice to feed into the growth mindset.
That's awesome. Yeah. When you said that the impact on your family from not eating very much, what was the impact? What was happening in the family dynamic? Were they talking to you? Were they like going on long walks with you and bringing it up? How was it? Were they crying?
Yeah, so I guess especially when it's a traumatic part in a person's life, I don't have very vivid memories of a lot of that period. I've just sort of got moments that really had an emotional impact on me that stuck with me.
Yeah.
And it was a conversation with my parents, and I could see how much it was affecting them, especially my mum. I could see how it was affecting her well-being, that I was doing that to myself. And that for me was important enough to say, okay, this has to change.
Wow.
So yeah, I do have a very vivid memory of that conversation.
No kidding. So your mom sat down with you and was like, hey, like calmly sat down with you.
There was definitely emotions there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Because I think a lot of times parents have a hard time with that. Not really knowing, unsure. They don't know what, do you go right in? Do you ignore? Do you just go to the doctor? Like how to approach that. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I've never had that conversation with my parents to ask them what it was like for them.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. You just sparked interest to have that conversation, to sit down. Yeah.
Yeah. I think eating disorders is massively more rampant than we think it is within humans, because it's kind of invisible, like you said. I think that a lot of people are doing it. It doesn't even matter how much you weigh. It doesn't mean that you're skinny just because you're, doing stuff like that. So I think that it's great that you're talking about it and being honest about it.